What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Combat Sports Media YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about this past weekend's fights over on Showtime, and we're going to be talking about Gary Russel and his career. But before I go any further, please like and subscribe, especially if you already haven't done so. So let's get going. Now, first, let's start off with the fight with Subriel Matias against the Armenian Petros Ananyan. Now, Subriel Matias is arguably one of the hottest prospects to come out of Puerto Rico in the modern game. He's currently, I believe, 19-1. This was a rematch, and Petros Ananyan won the first fight, and it was an excellent fight, very fan-friendly. Subriel Matias is a straight-up volume puncher. He likes to stand in front of you, and basically he fights like he's hitting the bag in some ways, in the sense that in his own perfect world, his opponent stands in front of him and just goes blow for blow with him. He likes to just stand in front of his opponent and just constantly win big shots, and every shot is at 100%, and he's looking to break you with every single one that he throws. Again, straight up volume puncher, but unlike most volume punchers, he actually punches hard. I believe he's the guy that killed Maxim Dadashev a few years back, if I'm not mistaken. So he's definitely a hard puncher, and you know, he was undefeated actually with, I believe, 18 knockouts. You almost 100% knockout ratio going into that fight with Petros Ananyan last year, and he ended up coming short in the decision. And Petros was able to match his volume, specifically with the jab. Every time, like, Subriel Matias threw a jab at him, he would respond immediately back with double, triple jabs, and then he would just keep going to work. In this fight, it was very much like the first fight in many ways. However, oh, and by the way, before I go any further, just to give you guys a perspective of how highly Subriel Matias is thought of or looked at in Puerto Rico amongst fellow boxers. You know, for those of you that don't know, I box myself, have been doing so for well over a decade. And, you know, I'm currently residing in Puerto Rico, and earlier this summer, I was actually training at the gym at La Perla. Shout out to Gabriel and the crew. And I actually sparred 9 or 10 rounds with Enrique Collazo, who is a former 2012 Puerto Rican Olympian and a super middleweight contender. And he was getting ready for his NBA title fight. And, you know, I was helping him get ready for that. And after one of the sessions, you know, we were talking, and I didn't ask. I straight up said, I said, Jose Pedraza is currently the best Puerto Rican boxer in the game right now. And he immediately responded, and he said, Subriel Matias. And at the time, I didn't even know who he was. And that's how I discovered him. He's like, Subriel Matias is the best fighter to come out of Puerto Rico right now. And, you know, that's saying a lot, especially when the guy hasn't even won his first world title and is coming off of a loss. But that just goes to show you the amount of respect and how highly regarded Subriel Matias is on the island of Puerto Rico amongst his fellow fighters. Now, I'm not saying I agreed with Enrique Collazo, because I didn't. I still think Jose Pedraza is the best Puerto Rican fighting currently, but I just wanted to give you guys that little tidbit just to show you the amount of respect he has amongst his fellow fighters on the island of Puerto Rico. So this rematch started out in many ways just like the first fight, but you know, it kept going back and forth with the rounds and stuff. Very fun, competitive fight. But Petros Ananyan got caught with some big shots. He ended up going down. And what I think happened is the ref and the doctor panicked. And before I go any further, this ref, it was a female ref, by the way, and she, I believe, in my opinion, was too inexperienced for what she had on her hands. This was a referee that had about 25 professional fights to her name. And the doctor, I don't ever remember seeing in my life, and I've been watching boxing for a very long time. So that tells me that she was inexperienced and new as well. You know, I've watched tons of fights that have taken place in Atlantic City. I've covered fights that have taken place in Atlantic City. I have never seen that doctor in my life, on TV or in real life. And unfortunately, the inexperience showed. They acted on impulse. This Subriel Matias guy has a reputation, I'm sure, because of what happened with Dadashev. And Ananyan went down from a knockdown. He was fine. He got up, beat the count easily, and had some slight swelling on his eye. And the doctor immediately went into the corner. Even though the swelling was not bad at all and was not affecting him in any way, shape, or form. And I guess it looked like she was asking him to move his eye or whatever. And she just ended up waving it off, or advising the referee to wave it off. And the referee ended up taking the advice and stopping the fight. I think it was a travesty. I believe that they should have given Petros a chance to fight it out. And you know what the thing is, look, if you're gonna hire people to referee and to look over a fight, the least you could do is make sure that they're qualified to do so. And you know, for example, I highly doubt this ref and the doctor both had no idea that this fight was even a rematch and that Petros actually won the first fight. I highly doubt that that doctor and the ref were aware of that. And to me, that's extremely unprofessional. If you're going to ref a fight, and if you're going to be a doctor overseeing a fight, you best do some research on the fighters that you're going to be reffing or seeing over. I highly doubt the doctor and that ref had any idea that this was a rematch and that Petros was the winner of the first fight. Instead, they just were aware of this Subriel Matias' reputation as a hard puncher. Were probably aware somewhat of what happened with Dadashev, and just panicked, acted on impulse, and stopped the fight, being completely unaware of Petros being the winner of their first fight, and being and not taking anything else into account but Subriel's reputation. If it was a more experienced referee, that referee would have maybe not taken that inexperienced doctor's advice and let the fight go, or, you know, I don't know, but the outcome would have most likely been different if there were more experienced personnel working the fight. I forget the doctor's name, I don't know. Look, I just think they did a horrible job, and I hope we don't see that ref and that doctor overseeing any fights ever again. But obviously that's not going to be the case, and they're going to probably fuck up more lives in the future. With that said, let's go on to the Gary Russell fight. Gary Russell was out for, I believe, it was like 2 years due to the pandemic, and then you got to give him that other year because he fights once a year anyway. So he was out for 2 years, I believe, and it looked like, I actually heard rumors that he was injured going into the fight, specifically concerning his foot or ankle or some shit. But then in the fight, we heard that he also hurt or injured his shoulder, and he ended up losing a decision to the giant Magsayo, or whatever his name is, big Filipino featherweight kid. Gary is obviously the better fighter. You could tell by watching the fight, but his injuries were holding him back, and he ended up getting outworked by the younger, fresher Magsayo. Congratulations to Magsayo. He seems to be a quality fighter, but unfortunately for Gary, I don't think this was a fighter or a fight that he should have lost against, because he was supremely talented compared to Magsayo, and he also had the massive edge when it comes to experience. So this was not a fight that Gary should have lost. It's unfortunate, but hey, things happen in this sport. With that said, I believe Gary is one of the best featherweights in his generation, if not the best. Because technically, when we talk about like head for head, Lomachenko is obviously the best featherweight in his generation. But when we talk about like body of work and the total sum, I believe you could argue and give it to Gary Russel, because he stayed there for his whole career, or thus far, and he won the WBC title against Johnny Gonzalez, who at the time was viewed as arguably the best in the division, because he just came off of that big knockout win against Abner Mares. And Gary blew him out in like 4 or 5 rounds, won the WBC strap, and defended it against, you could say what you want, but he defended it against the #1 contenders for I don't know how many years now, 6 years now. And he did rack up some good wins. Maybe they weren't the sexy names that we all wanted to see him against, like Leo Santa Cruz and whatnot. But when you compare it to other fellow featherweights in his generation, and especially when you compare the body of work at the weight, Gary's whole record and resume holds up to any other featherweight in his generation. And like I said, he stayed there his whole career, and he's just an awesome fighter, underrated, and I think that's mostly because he just doesn't fight as much as we want him to, and all the big names in and around his weight all ducked him, aside from Lomachenko. Lomachenko was the only big name that fought him at featherweight. So those are my thoughts on that. Hopefully, I think Gary will take another year or two off and come back at 130, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, we'll see him in a big fight before he calls it a career. I believe the Gervonta Davis fight is a sexy fight, but it seems like Gervonta Davis is just going up and up in weight these days, and it seems like that fight might never happen, which is kind of unfortunate. Well, there you have it, guys. That's it for today. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Again, press that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so. God bless, and I'll see you guys soon.